Welcome to the Whisky Exchange. I'm here at one of London's biggest spirit and whiskey shops. 2 floors of alcohol. What more could a whiskey lover want? I'm here today to have a bit of a tour, have a look at all of the whiskey that's downstairs, and at the end, I'm gonna pick out some of my favorite bottles that are available here. So, without further ado, come follow me and let's check this place out. Here we are inside the Great Portland Street Whisky Exchange store. Obviously, they've got 2 other stores as well, Covent Garden and London Bridge. Behind me, there is a huge wall of wine and champagne, something I don't know very much about at all, so we're gonna skip straight past. Here, a wall full of rum. Now, rum, I think, as a spirit, really interesting, something I've been getting into a little bit more recently. Really affordable. I mean, there's a 15-year-old rum here for £70. Compared to some whiskey prices, pretty good value. But for the whiskey lovers, this little bit of the top floor is where it's at, especially for a certain type of whiskey lover. It's not the world's best collection, but there's a huge array of different minis here. And, you know, stuff from core range through to 25-year-old whiskey and above. There's obviously people that collect minis, but also in terms of your ability to try new things, you could come here, empty the shelves of 10, 15 different minis for the price of a bottle and a half of whiskey, and have yourself a couple of great nights just trying new things. Over here though, is a section that is something that I find hard to ignore on my way downstairs to the whiskey here at Great Portland Street. It's the sherry, the port, and the fortified wine. So let's have a look. We're in a lovely little corner of the shop. Over here, there's some particularly old and rare cognacs and armagnacs. Over here, some ports, Madeira, sherry, and other bits as well. You've got over here a collection of 30-year-old sherries, Palo Cortado, Pedro Jimenez, etc. From anywhere between £30 for a half bottle to £90. Really, you know, if you're into your sherried whiskey, actually check out where some of the casks come from. Obviously, some of the seasoned stuff that goes into the whiskey is not 30-year-old vintage sherry. But again, I think it's really, really interesting to be able to have a glass of sherry, a glass of whiskey in each hand and see what you can pick up in terms of the notes on each one and where the provenance of the cask has come from. But I know you're all here for the whiskey, the cellar's downstairs, so follow me. Downstairs, obviously we talk a lot about Scotch, but there's more to that in the world of whiskey. Shelf upon shelf of American whiskey, shelf upon shelf of Irish whiskey. And again, you know, you're not just talking about core range items here. You know, 97 and 2000 vintage Bushmills, for example, and then into Japanese whiskey as well. You know, there are not too many places where you've got Yamazaki 18, Hakashu 18 sat on the shelf, limited edition Hibikis, and there's even a cabinet full of old and rares as well. And as well, for me, one of the most underrated parts of the shop, we start getting into the blended malts and the grains as well. Pretty much a full range from Compass Box, a lot of Johnny Walker, but then what you've all been waiting for, the Scotch selection. I'm quite lucky that I work quite closely to this store actually here, and sometimes on a lunch break or just after work, it's fun to come in here because it's almost like a museum of Scotch. Down here, you've got the best part of 20 bottles from the Rare Malts collection. There's a 1977 and 78 vintage Ardbeg. There's 6 different Port Ellens, some incredibly rare old Taliskers. Now, you know, let's face it, you need deep pockets for some of these. You know, there are very few bottles in here that will set you back less than £1,000. Some are more than £20,000, but I like to just come and have a little watch, if nothing else. You know, the Scotch is at least, you know, pretty well organized as well. A lot of it kind of by region. You've got some Campbelltown and Islay over here, Bunners, Bamors, Kalilas, all over in this corner as well. And you start kind of getting a little bit lighter down some of the flavor spectrum, apart from some of the sherry monsters from Speyside and the Highlands that you start to see as well. There's also a bunch of exclusive whiskies that you'll find here as well. We're going to taste some of those with Alex in another video, so do watch out for that one. And in the middle here is where you find some of the other Whisky Show bottlings and other shop exclusives that have been around for the last, you know, year or two. I think the latest actually is this 2009 14-year-old GlenAllachie, which is £150 and is a fairly punchy 60.3% ABV. But again, a whole range of different prices and labels as well, you know, ranging from, you know, £63 for a 12-year-old Ben Rinnes up to £600 for a 20-year-old single cask Ardbeg as well. There's also down here a really good selection of indie bottlers as well. So I think, you know, I've given you a little bit of a tour. It's time to pick out a couple of bottles that have caught my eye and tell you why. Here's the moment you've all been waiting for, my 3 favorite shop picks of the day. We've got something for just about every budget. I'm gonna start off with actually what I've got in my glass at the minute. So £94, it's an Ardnamurchan sherry cask, unpeated, so a little bit unusual, exclusive to the Whisky Exchange. It's just a little bit dirty, really high quality sherry. Obviously it's relatively young whiskey, but that is about the price you're gonna pay for any Ardnamurchan single cask. Plus, it's really interesting to have that mix of kind of unpeated spirit with kind of a bit of dirt from previous runs and a nice quality sherry cask as well. Great stuff. Second pick of the day, and this is for those of you that have got deeper pockets. There's this Lost in Time series, Chivas Workhorse Distilleries, very well aged, generally bourbon casks. It's kind of like what Rare Malts did for Diageo 20 years ago. Some of you will know from my history that Glentauchers is my favorite workhorse distillery of them all. This one, this 33-year-old, absolutely incredible, bursting with fruit, incredible depth of flavor. The only negative is the price, £970. But this is the only place you can get it, unless you're lucky enough to find one at auction that somehow comes up cheaper. If you love Glentauchers and you can afford £970 for a bottle, it will blow you away. I'm over here at the counter now and I've got a bottle of that exclusive GlenAllachie in my hand. And I think it just shows that it's really important to have a chat with the staff. At the end of the day, I think one of the things that makes the Whisky Exchange stand out is that the staff are here to talk to you guys about whiskey. So if you're wandering around with your headphones in, you're going to miss the opportunity to have a dram. They've always got a couple of things that are here for punters to come in and try, and you might find that you're really pleasantly surprised. And if you don't have a chat, you're not going to try it. Final pick of the day, Signatory Unchill Filtered Collection. These are always really good value. Simple labels, simple tins, but good, honest pricing. Here you've got a Secret Orkney. There is no independent scapper. It's a Highland Park. 13 years old, £53, 46%. Refill hogsheads. It's fairly light, but it doesn't cost you much more than a Highland Park 12. Should be really interesting for the price. Again, yeah, come to a whiskey shop like this. So many different independent bottlings. Loads and loads of different stuff under £60, at least a dozen bottles here. You could pick anything, whatever your flavour profile is. All right, that was our trip to the Whisky Exchange and a tour around the Great Portland Street store and a bit of footage as well from Covent Garden and London Bridge. Thank you so much for the team for having us. Obviously, amazing stores. Do go in and speak to the staff. They're all super knowledgeable about whiskey. They love whiskey as much as you guys do as well. They've got some great exclusives as well, so please don't miss out on tasting them. Obviously, check out the Whisky Show and all of the other great things they do as well, including the We Are Whiskey campaign. It's just a bunch of people telling you their stories about how they got into and started loving whiskey. So do look at those stories as well. It's been a pleasure being here. This has been Whiskey Baron and another episode of the Enthusiast series. So thank you so much for joining us, and we'll see you next time.